I learned a new word yesterday, and that was dank, and today I've learned macula. I'm just getting smarter and smarter as the days go on. I'm very excited to introduce our next presenter. You've heard a lot from folks internal here at CGPS, but we would not be able to do what we do every day for our students and offer the products that we offer if not for our external support units all across the university. And one relationship that we are incredibly proud of having built just more and more strongly over the last year or so is our relationship with the library. So I am very excited to introduce Cadence Atkinson to talk to you all today about library support for online students.
Thank you. So my name is Cadence Atkinson, and I am the Online Research and Teaching Librarian here at the University of New England. And I have been in this role since August of 2017, so it hasn't really been that long. Before that, I worked on the Biddeford campus of the University of New England, and I was at the Ketchum Library as a reference librarian and the liaison for a lot of the College of Arts and Sciences. While I was working there, I also completed my MSED through UNE CGPS, and I completed that in May of 2017. At the same time that was happening, the libraries were undergoing a self-led staff restructuring, which created this online research and teaching librarian position. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about the things that I am doing in this role, but to start out, I wanted to ask everybody here, what do you think of when you think of library support? And I wanted to ask this question to try and sort of figure out what you guys are thinking of, and also to test out a new technology that we have access to through CEDL, which is Poll Everywhere. So you can answer this question by texting or by going to pollev.com / a bunch of my name 650 and putting in your answer. And if I did this right, the next slide should show us what people have said. If I didn't, I apologize. And maybe we'll get some responses. So I think depending on your own role and your own background, you might be thinking of very different things when you think about library support. And oh, this is great, it's working, yay. I wrote a whole bit about I'm so sorry the technology isn't working, so I'm so glad I don't have to use that. So instead I can take a look at and see that it's all sort of reorganizing itself. Oh, this is so cool. Scholarship, locating relevant information, help is getting bigger and bigger. Online help, citation. Oh, look at this. This is so cool. So this whole word cloud that we're creating absolutely is a big piece of what I'm doing. So related to this, I wanted to share with you this is what we came up with when we were doing that staff-led restructuring. When we were talking about the online research and teaching position. This is a snapshot of the whiteboard just cropped to the online research and teaching librarian position. We used Post-it notes to identify the different things that we thought each of the jobs should have within it. And this online research and teaching position had a lot of liaison responsibilities, with the idea that a liaison would be someone who would help to build more communication and cooperation and facilitate closer working relationships within whichever unit it was that they were liaisoning with. So that idea of the liaison relationship, to help foster that, we hatched this plan that I would physically sit with the College of Graduate and Professional Studies a couple of days a week. The idea being that if I were physically within the program, I would be more likely to be utilized by the program staff. I love this meme. Mostly because it kind of is my life right now. You know, it's like, what do you mean you're not in the library? Well, I'm all over the place, and it's so much fun. And it has definitely been one of the biggest and quickest victories of this position. When we brought this to Dean Wilson, she found a place for me right away. And being physically in with the College of Graduate and Professional Studies, I am sort of in the flow of things. Student support specialists can stop by my desk and ask if they have a student that's struggling with something. The instructional designers can ask me about things like if there are links that are broken, they can bring them right to me and I can try and help with that. The academic program managers can ask me questions about resources. And being physically in their space means that I also get questions that I wouldn't ever get otherwise. I get involved in conversations that I wouldn't even know were going on if I wasn't in the building. So it has been really wonderful. The College of Graduate Professional Studies has been really welcoming to me, which is really wonderful. And so I think that that is really definitely an early success of this particular position. I have been doing things in addition to simply physically being in place. Some of the specific things that I have started to do in response to these conversations and questions include creating a variety of digital learning objects. So documents to support specific assignments, tutorials for specific resources that courses are using, resource lists that we can point students to at the beginning of their programs or at the beginning of specific courses. In addition, I am also providing one-on-one support, which I think of as a traditional form of library support. So in the old school way, by phone and in person, I have actually had students from CGPS come to campus to meet with me in person, which is kind of fun. But we are also extending this idea of traditional support to better serve students at a distance by doing it in different mediums, such as our ongoing pilot of chat reference, which is something that I have been spearheading, but I'm absolutely not doing alone. The library staff as a whole is supporting this. We have a chat widget on the library pages now, and you can use it to get help from a librarian from about 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock at night most days of the week. We also have an email reference box that gets checked by all of the research and teaching librarians, so that also extends our availability to students at a distance. In addition to being a resource for students in the moment when they need support, I am also a resource for faculty and staff, so those student support staff, the academic program staff, to try and put support in place before students need it. So this involves things like helping with textbook selection to try and ensure that the texts that are selected are available electronically for institutional access. Identifying ahead of time where a tutorial or a digital learning object might clarify something about the resources that are required for an assignment, or to help to scaffold those information literacy skills that are necessary to complete the assignment. Okay, so going back to that response or responsiveness, are there other ways that I could be helping online students? I know that I am still very new at this and I am learning all sorts of things all the time about what I can do in this position and what my role is. But there are definitely things that I'm not going to come up with on my own, and so I ask you guys, are there other things that you think of that I might be able to do? And so I'm going to try the poll everywhere again. You should be able to text again to me, and then the message should come to me. So that piece, all right. And I think I didn't set it up so that it'll show us this time, sorry. So you can just text it to me. And finally, any questions that can be answered in this session, I would love to answer. So that's something that we are still very much tracking. It really is very interesting. We get really nice stats from them. So we do have nice ongoing stats about the hours that are busiest and the days that are busiest. It seems to be sort of midday, middle of the week is our busiest right now. And I should say it's for all students. So it's not just the online students who have access to this, it's anybody that accesses our web page has access to it. So it is an interesting sort of ongoing thing, and it's still sort of unclear, I think, how big the reach can be, because I think part of it is students simply getting used to using that as a way to get in touch with librarians. The types of questions that we're getting, some of them are sort of directional, help with accessing a library, accessing a resource, like what time are you open until tonight, that sort of question. And some of them are much more in-depth and need to be followed up with via email. But I think having it as another point of contact is really useful for the students. So, question in the back.
I can just give us, I'm Beth Dyer from the library. Great job, Cadence. I can just give an example. This morning, I logged into chat just for an hour and got a question from an EDD student, and it was, she was looking for peer-reviewed case report on leadership theory. And so it was clearly they're tied to a very specific assignment she's probably, working on right now, and just needed help navigating what database do I use. And I did exactly what Cadence suggested, which is started to get kind of complicated. And I said, let's take this to email. And then we took it to email, and I sent her some screenshots from some sample searches. And so hopefully that was helpful, but that was just today.
One of the interesting things for me is the way that library spaces, especially on college campuses, have really changed over the past 10 years or so. And so I'm wondering, how are you seeing the new and different ways that students are using the library and working with librarians in the physical space? What could we do, and what aren't we doing right now to sort of scaffold some of that and support some of that in the virtual space?
There has been a big push, I think, to think of the library as a space, which I'm not sure how you translate that, right? If you're looking at online, I mean, one of the things that I do, at least occasionally, with online students is suggest that they go to a local library. So one of the ideas, a best practice for a distance education program, is never to try to support it by interlibrary loan. We do mail books to students occasionally, but it's kind of a last resort. It's one of those things that, so when you interlibrary loan something, it goes via media mail, which is the lowest class of mail. So the transit time can be way too long to really make it feasible to be a good way to support a program. And so we do have some resources, like there's this great, OCLC has a product called Worldcat, and you can go to Worldcat and put in your zip code and find out how close you are to the book that you're looking for. And so I will use that to show a student that they could go to their local library and at least get a copy to use within the library, if not to borrow if they don't have an affiliation with that library. So that, I think, is something that, suggesting that even though they may not physically be close to campus, they could physically be close to a library and to get to know their local library. I don't know that that's really a great way. Another thing, I guess, sort of that I really really love the idea of serendipity in browsing, and that's something that you really lose with the online catalog to an extent, but we do have the capability to build these little visual widgets of book titles and book jackets so that you can do a little bit of browsing and build in a little bit of that potential for serendipity anyway, that someone is going to come across a book that they wouldn't have looked at otherwise. And I do try to do some of that. Okay. As per usual, I talked way too fast, so I went through that really too fast, but thank you guys so much. If you have other questions, don't hesitate to ask me outside of this. I'm always happy to answer if I can and help if I can. So, all right, thank you.